Careful, careful, careful. This is like my third time trying to film this video, but we're gonna get it right this time, okay? I don't really have a choice. Hey, don't knock my stuff over. Don't knock my stuff over. You, okay, hi. Hello. 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 All right, let's do this. This is such a weird time to be alive. And our most popular form of escapism is becoming the most decisive part of our culture. Every day we are getting yanked in a new direction. Movies are dead. Cinema is back. Hollywood is a wasteland. Everything is woke now. So which one is it? We can never really seem to agree on these things. With every movie release, the world of film and television has sunken into a deeper limbo. And it's breaking my brain at this point. Well, greetings and salutations. My name is Malcolm, and I love movies of all shapes and sizes. I don't discriminate. I've been studying movies and television pretty much all my life. I've been able to work on a fair amount of sets, some big, some small. Most had a budget worthy of food stamps. And while I'm no all-knowing expert, I do have insight to how the sausage gets made. And as an avid viewer and creator, I have found that the discussion of film and television is devolving. While viewers are entitled to their opinions and wants from the art that they pay for and enjoy, I feel like we fixate on the perceived joy of art while we forget about the complexities of its creation. Making a movie in general is incredibly hard. It's harder than most things that you can do in 90 to 120 minutes. Good, mid, or bad, tough work is getting done by talented people. And I watch film Twitter degrade projects into very basic categories of either being the best thing ever made or the worst thing ever made. Having favorites is fine. Declaring something to be, your favorite is fine. Declaring something to be bad is fine. A movie really might be the best or worst thing you've ever seen, and that's fine. But there are far more ways to look at movies than best or worst, and it's time we're honest. Movie discussion right now is in a terrible place, and I'm here to explain why I think why we're here. Now, let's go ahead and try and break this down and see if there's a way to fix it. Now, before the big cough, movies were primarily a theatrical experience, even as streaming had its steady rise over the 2010s. There was a clear difference between a movie that premiered on streaming and a movie that premiered in theaters. Bird Box feels like a Netflix movie. While Get Out feels like a theatrical movie, both had their massive impacts on our culture when they came out. In the busiest box office year of 2002, roughly 1.5 billion tickets were sold, and that amounted to about $7 billion in our North American box office. 2002, mind you, was a loaded year. We had Attack the Clones, Chamber of Secrets, Spider-Man, The Two Towers. It was just a loaded year in general. Now let's fast forward to 2019, prior to the big cough, which is also another big year where we grossed about $11 billion in North America. Now we go to 2023, where theaters roughly see half the numbers from 2002. In 2024, the national box office gross topped out at about $8.5 billion, and $9 billion is projected for 2025. So 2019, as of this recording, was the last time North American box office hit double-digit billions. That's a success rate drop from 78% to 65%. It went from a high C to a D-. Look, I can throw numbers around here all day, but there is a clear point. Theater viewership is down dramatically. Of course, the big cough was one of the main culprits, but it opened up a chance for streaming to swoop in and steal the theater thunder. It's so hot. It's so hot. But the streaming takeover truly started on Netflix when a bunch of lesbians went to prison. Or when a predator became president. Depends on who you asked and what you watched. Orange is the New Black and House of Cards were the first major streaming shows. Cable had the weekly episodes that everybody wanted to watch, and then those episodes would pop up on Hulu the next day. While Netflix just had large categories of shows, but they wouldn't be the latest episodes. Then one by one, they all came. Amazon Prime came and had a massive library to watch while shopping. Disney Plus dedicated their streaming service to keeping their cinematic universes alive and rebooting the very idea of nostalgia. Apple TV offered bundles that combined all of these services and high quality shows of their own. And HBO pretty much just made their whole service run through at Max, or HBO Max now. And then we can't forget about the Tubies of the world that offer all of these services for free with different paid tiers. Simply put, there is a vast number of options that don't force you to leave your home. We must also note the rise in cheaper televisions, projectors, and media setups at home. All of this was the perfect storm for when theaters were forced to close and movies were either delayed or went straight to streaming. Consumers were forced to choose between convenience and ritual, and also safety. Watching movies from the comfort of your own home made the whole charade of traveling, parking, buying tickets and food, or sneaking it in if you're a real one, and sharing a space with strangers, which kind of seemed like a huge hassle at the time. Too much of a hassle for when less than, $20 you could just stay home and eat and pause whenever you wanted. And also subtitles. And this isn't me being anti-theater, not at all. I love the cinema. We could only experience these movies at the theater, and we usually had to wait like 5 months for the DVD or VHS release. We had like no choice but to go to the theater. Okay. And it was awesome. One main issue that the streaming boom raised is it worth catching every single theatrical experience, especially when it's guaranteed that the movie will be on streaming within the next few months or even weeks if there isn't a record-breaking box office weekend? Why would I waste my money on Mickey 17 when it's going to be on HBO Max not even a month after its release? Well, we need to actually look at how theaters and streaming services profit. So we have two main options, okay? We have the theater system that relies on box office, which offers the fast and measurable success of a movie. It's all in your face. Studios and theaters make their money back and report it right back to you. We get projections, we get accurate numbers of ticket sales, and the instant measurable sign of success. Everybody sees and knows where the money goes. It's all relatively equal playing field. Any movie with a traditional theatrical run has a chance to break into the box office gold, at least during the pre-pandemic era. Streaming, on the other hand, is more about brand strength. It's engagement and brand recognition. Because streaming runs on monthly subscriptions, that's kind of why we see services with these flagship series. Netflix and Stranger Things, Amazon The Boys, or, Invincible, HBO Max, House of the Dragon. Like a Planet Fitness monthly plan where you get the gym, the locker room, and those water massage beds are all meant to keep you coming back. Success of streaming, however, is very vague, much like the progress from working out at Planet Fitness. Because it's a subscription service, streaming measures in views, watch time, and what titles bring in new subscribers. And if those titles help reduce their cancellation rate. Streaming's greatest limitation relies on their need for instant viral success and the constant urge to keep you coming back to the club. The chances at a second life are slim on streaming services, but not impossible. The circumstances are different than the DVD days, but most of the time streaming success relies on the initial release. They don't offer the same second life chances that the theater release does. Okay, stay out of the way. Go. Thank you. Now, Netflix doesn't get exclusive DVD releases with special behind the scenes and bloopers and commentary tracks. They don't get special anniversary re-releases and Blu-rays. Their lifespan only lasts as long as it's on the front page of streaming services and social media reminds you that they exist. Now, the real intriguing thing to me is what makes something a success in the world of streaming and theater. Netflix's most watched movie, Red Notice, which I've never seen, has amassed about 240 million views. It was viewed over 450 million hours, while Carry On and Don't Look Up both topped out about 172 million views and 376 million viewing hours. Now, they reached these numbers by dividing the total hours viewed by the movie's runtime. It also should be noted that watching a movie for 2 minutes on Netflix counts as an official view, so I guess you could say I've seen Red Notice. Netflix also automatically assumes that at least 2 people are watching a program, which does make sense, but also feels a bit like cheating. The process in which views are counted in streaming is kind of complicated and also somewhat secretive. So trying to compare something as easy to track as box office to a pretty crazy equation that any streaming service can fix in whatever way they see fit creates an odd comparison. Box office is pretty basic. It's easy to count dollars. To me, that's a record that holds more weight than views by far. and movies released straight to streaming lack the same gravitas that a successful theater release does. $1 billion in ticket sales is far cooler than a calculated viewership number. Now, I feel like I've been talking down on streaming, which isn't necessarily fair. Not everybody can afford a theatrical run. Distribution costs, also known as print and advertising, or P&A, can essentially double the cost to make a movie. P&A accounts for pretty much anything that is used to let audiences know that a new movie is coming out. Screenings, conventions, ad testing, polls, premiere parties, trailers, billboards, television spots, any alternate versions of a movie like dubs or alternate aspect ratios, any promotion at all. This can cost from a few $1,000,000 up to $100 million or more, depending on the movie. Theaters and studios also get to negotiate how they handle business and where their cuts come in. They often split the revenue with studios who get their profits prioritized. For movies to stay in theaters longer, they usually have performance benchmarks. This is when something like the time length of a movie can matter, because when a movie is 3 hours long, you have less time during the day to book out theaters and sell tickets. The shorter the movie, the more times you can run it. All of this is why movies like Avatar: Way of Water were under such insane pressure to become one of the highest grossing movies ever just to break even. And that's all banking on you, the viewer, having the time, energy, and interest to use your hard-earned cash to go to the theater. At least that was the way until streaming and the internet changed the game. Now a lot of these streaming services don't have to split the cost with anybody except production. They don't have to pay theaters for runtime. You can make a 3-hour movie if you want because you don't have to book out theater times. It provides a weird balance. It also changed what gets made now. Now, art is one of the easiest things that millions of people can discuss all together. We all have access to the chance to watch something, whether it's through legal channels or not. And the fun of discussion is what makes something worth watching, depending on who you are. Talking about Get Out was part of the best thing of that movie. Freaking out with people together in Avengers Endgame made people feel alive, man. Letterboxd has become one of my favorite social media apps. Follow me. But this post-Big Cough era of internet co-watching has clear downfalls. One bad clip of a movie scene filmed on a phone and posted to Twitter can make or break a movie. Minecraft was thriving all because of that chicken jockey viral sensation of destruction. And now it's a record-breaking movie.
Chicken jockey!
The movie theater experience now only seems worth it if the internet tells you it is. It's now something people do to feel like they're a part of a cultural moment. Chicken Jockey was major because you saw people lose their minds over it online, and you could have gone to the theater and done it too. Hollywood has begun to take notice. They now craft movies with this in mind. Netflix has been catching heat now for their shows and movies being written to be background noise for viewers. A lot of content is now designed to be eye-catching within whatever parameters social media provides. But it's also not the worst thing in the world. I mentioned how streaming services don't naturally offer a second life chance for movies, but that's where social media can come in. Do you know how many movies I've watched on TikTok? A lot. TikTok's format allows for accounts to post 10-minute clips at most. There are countless accounts that post full movies broken up into convenient chapters, like YouTube in the early days. Imagine you stumble upon an intriguing scene of Kevin Bacon measuring out a house with his daughter, only to find out that the exterior is larger than the interior. Boom. Now you're intrigued and you want to find out more about You Should Have Left. And now, a $4 million movie released on demand can get a second life chance and a possible cult following, all because it went viral on the internet. Social media can provide the second life boost that streaming can't give itself, and it can happen from a simple viral video. So millennials are split on how they discover movies. 28% use social media, 27% find out via trailer. Meanwhile, Gen Z, 47% find new movies through social media, 25% find them via trailers, and only 12% find them via commercials. Streaming and the internet offers a great convenient alternative for viewers and creators to both discover and publish movies. And this was predicted by several industry giants in the early 2000s.
I believe that the industry has been too slow to embrace and adopt these paradigms. If you look at historically in terms of technologies, in terms of consumer-based technologies, you have like basically shareware that introduces the consumer to it at no cost, at which point the consumer's on the hook. They've worked out the kinks, they've figured out how to interact with it and how to exploit it, and then you charge a fee, and the consumer historically has been willing to pay that fee. I think an annual subscription-based system is the one that works. You have the music business at $3.4 billion a year business, okay, which is largely about 1.7 million people in the country spending $200 a year. That same people would spend those $200 a year each year to have access to basically the entire library of existing music. And of course, you continue to re-up your subscription because you pay for new music. Royalties would be paid more directly to the artists. You have less overhead. You pay no shipping, packaging, and you pay no. There's this mammoth amount of executives at music companies that are glomming off a lot of that money. I believe that paradigm is the most effective, productive. That's the paradigm that Adam Smith would most want. I think there are inefficiencies in the market now, and I think they're being worked out. And I think file sharing is pushing the industry toward that balance because it's because of its availability right now.
What makes streaming seem like such a boogeyman is the fact that 5 years ago, the big cough and the deaths that followed put the theater industry, the best way to watch a movie, on the edge of extinction, and streaming services, like any smart business, tried to fill that void for the sake of audiences and creators. But now that the industry has rebounded somewhat, we are stuck at a crossroads of what becomes the best way to consume. Theaters have been struggling with small budget, everyday movies finding massive success, like in the early 2000s. But they still reign supreme with the big event films. Meanwhile, Netflix can drop $300 million on the worst adaptation you've ever seen, but their small budget and one-off movies are coming in clutch. The industry is changing at a rapid pace, and we are all playing catch-up, especially since making a movie is now cheaper than ever. We now have access to the greatest technology of any era. Everybody has an HD camera in their pocket now. Editing software is easy to come by. There's countless sources that can teach you how to pull off complicated edits for as cheap as possible. There are very few secrets in the industry on a technical level. Distribution has also been easier with sites like YouTube and TikTok, Instagram, Vimeo, Tubi, countless sites where you can just find and upload work for little to no cost. Sites that offer monetary rewards for viral success. You have all you need to be noticed if you're willing to get past the initial gut-wrenching fear of, putting your work out there. YouTube is currently the biggest streaming platform in terms of total TV viewership. More people are tuning into YouTube now than regular television. It's free, it's simple, and there's more variety than any other streaming service. Viewers can tailor their tastes, creators have relatively free reign to create whatever they want, and they can make their money via advertisements or sponsorships. And I haven't even mentioned AI yet. This is a very complicated topic. It requires its own separate video, but AI filmmaking is already changing the game, for better and for worse. Look, I'd be lying if I said there isn't any practical use for it as a tool. I recently made a documentary that used 11 Labs, an AI voice cloning app, so I wouldn't have to re-record and plan around a bunch of shooting schedules for different narrators. It's too useful of a tool to completely disregard. I'm still coming to terms with AI as a tool, but I acknowledge its existence. In all honesty, I don't really have a choice in the matter. Every major studio is already using it. Up to 80% of movies and TV now use AI in some form during the creative process. That can go anywhere from the idea phase to screenwriting, all the way up to post-production. And there's plenty of movies that are about to be made purely with AI. They're already announced. While the argument can be made that this does a disservice to creativity, it's also pretty clear that any creative person can use these tools to their benefit, saving time and energy on tasks some might consider menial. Hell, I'm guilty of using it at least to organize my notes and ideas into like an easier to digest way so I can write faster. But I'll be damned if I use it to create something strictly from scratch. AI can never replace human ingenuity. Human nature is what drives creativity at the end of the day. Human nature drives art to be made and be successful because that's what makes it relatable. Does that mean tech companies won't try and replace us? No, not at all. They're gonna do it either way. And human nature is the most powerful and meaningful process of creativity, which also leads me to my next point. Oh my goodness. This is probably like the biggest point I have to make. Every piece of media or art ever made is in some way political. If a piece of art conveys a lesson to learn or a thought to consider, it's political. Argue with your mama. That's how art works. Finding Nemo has a political message about captivity and different species coming together to help reunite a separated family. The first movie in the MCU is about a man who suffers from guilt for selling weapons of war to both sides of a conflict. A good portion of that movie takes place in war-torn Middle East. You know, for whatever reason, American audiences are suddenly fearful of our movies having anything meaningful to say beyond explosions and quips. And I hate to be that guy. Not really, I love it. But every movie ever made has more meaning than just to be entertaining. A certain group of people love the term go woke, go broke. But almost every blockbuster in the past 10 years is actively preaching to you the most progressive, woke themes possible, and audiences eat it up every time. Dune, Wicked, Andor, Squid Games, Oppenheimer, Sinners, Parasite, Mission Impossible, Anora. Well, a lot of people hate the idea that, a movie is trying to prove a point to the audience. A lot of people like to say that art is escapism, which it's not true. Art is more so of a result of the creator's perception of the world and the ideas that they are conveying. You have never seen a movie that wasn't influenced by somebody's beliefs, whether religious, political, or some type of life experience, because art is equally creation and interpretation. Everything in creation has some type of meaning. Now, there is a debate that can be held about what the audience sees versus what the creator intended. But what is perceived will always be spoken about more because more people will be able to see something than people who worked on something. This has always been the case. Many artists are scared to be seen in a blue or red light now, and it creates this false sense of apolitical storytelling that's never existed. There has never been a superhero movie or a science fiction movie or a fantasy movie that don't touch political themes. Those are the most politically conscious movies. The easiest example I can give you is Star Wars. I'm sorry, I'm gonna always find a way to bring it up. The original trilogy acted as a Vietnam War allegory, showed audiences how guerrilla war tactics can defeat a well-organized and well-funded technological empire like America. I'm sorry, I mean the Galactic Empire. And that's not speculation, that's what the creator himself said.
I come out of anthropology.
Yeah.
So my focus is social systems.
Right.
And in science fiction, you got two branches. One is science,
Yeah.
and the other is social.
Right.
It isn't the science, aliens, and all that kind of stuff that I get focused on. It's the how do the people react to all those things? And
Yeah.
how do they accommodate them?
Yeah.
So that's the part that really fascinates me and I'm interested in.
You did something very interesting with Star Wars, if you think about it. The good guys are the rebels. They're using asymmetric warfare against a highly organized empire. I think we call those guys terrorists today. We call them Mujahideen, we call them Al-Qaeda.
When I did it, they were Viet Cong.
Exactly. So were you thinking of that at the time? Yes. So it was a very anti-authoritarian, very kind of 60s against the man kind of thing, nested deep inside of a fantasy.
Or a colonial, we're fighting the largest empire in the world.
Right.
And we're just a bunch of hayseeds in coonskin hats that don't know nothing.
That's right.
And it was the same thing with the Vietnamese.
Yep.
The irony of that one is in both of those, the little guys won.
Right.
And the big, highly technical empire,
the English Empire, right?
the English Empire, the American Empire,
Yep.
lost.
Yeah.
That was the whole point. And we're still struggling with it.
And they fall because of failure of leadership or government often. And
Mostly
you have a great line, which is, so this is how liberty dies.
We're in the middle of it right now.
To thunderous applause. Exactly. It was a condemnation of populism in a science fiction context.
That's a theme that runs all the way through Star Wars.
I think science fiction is so good at these kind of social themes.
Yeah, the great thing about Star Wars is I had a vessel that I could throw anything into.
Yeah.
But one of the biggest problems you have in science fiction with movies, they don't have it in books or anything, but in movies, you have to create a real world.
Yeah.
And it's a real world that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And you have to do what Kurosawa used to say is, it has to have immaculate reality.
Yeah.
The prequels are about how liberty dies and how fascism can rise from a distracted democracy where a leader refuses to acknowledge a genocidal war that's taking place, which inspires democracy to elect a dangerous old man with a shady past to the highest point of power in the land, giving him all emergency powers and neglecting checks and balances, all for him to seize control and kill or imprison anybody who would stand in his way. Not like that's not relevant at all. And finally, we have the sequel trilogy, where a diverse group of all walks of life have to defeat that very same evil that should have died off years ago. And this time is led by an incel with daddy and mommy issues who's trying to be a space Nazi because they promised him he'd be better than them if he embraced the old fascist ways of his grandpa. And due to the foolish neglect of political powers and our elders not properly healing from the past and just trying to reestablish a status quo. And now we must have the exact same fight all over again because our elders did not take the threat of the same power rising again as seriously as they should have. There isn't a single facet of our lives that politics cannot and will not affect, especially art. Art is the tool of institutions and the people. That's why fascist regimes always have a propaganda master. Those are the political movies you should fear. They sell narratives, ideas, products, and people. Everything you look at is under some form of persuasion. Everything. And the media has always reflected the world we live in. See, I was born in 1998, same week as Michael Jordan's final Eastern Conference Finals run. The first thing I remember seeing on TV were the Twin Towers burning and soldiers in the Middle East. It was always on TV. The coverage never stopped. It felt like I was born into a world of chaos. It didn't help that my family low-key fled the country like a month after 9/11, but that's a different story. I mean, I remember the crash in 2008 and seeing it on the news all the time. CNN was always on in my household. It was either that or 24. The first decade of my life was nothing but uncertainty. Enter Obama. OBZ. There might not have been a better time to be young and black and seeing Obama ascend to the presidency. Now, media at the time was interesting. Years before he became president, 2004 to be exact, Obama gave a speech at John Kerry's Democratic Convention. And it was such a famous speech that it essentially put him on the map for most of the country. Many people back then theorized that he would end up becoming the first black president from that moment alone. That's when Hollywood also noticed him, and they started to use him as a blueprint for non-white POTUSes in TV and film. It was like the powers that be were preparing us for reality, and it was awesome. And then one day, in November of 2008, OBZ won. Film and TV would catch fire from that point on. Suddenly, we were in the White House. Everywhere on screen, you saw some form of black pride that we could embrace because we finally saw our dreams become reality. Now, this isn't a video that discusses how Obama actually performed as president. That's another topic. But he inherited a recession and brought America into what felt like a new era. So I don't know if you can tell, I grew up in white private schools. During Obama's years, right? I was one of 5 black kids in my class. It was one in like 10 of the whole school, right? So in 2012, I spent the entire school year talking smack and going on and on and on about how Obama was going to go back to back. Mind you, I was also in Alabama, a state more red than blood. But I didn't care. I was hype, and everybody's worst nightmare happened. I was right. I came to school the next day, and parents were no joke, no exaggeration, no hyperbole, dropping their kids off, tears in their eyes, red from Republican pain. Imagine, this kid was right about something he'd been talking shit about for a whole year. All 5 of us black students sat together a lot more often after that day. We had our own table at lunch, and nobody dared sit next to us. We brought back segregation to my high school. Actually, segregation was technically still legal in Huntsville, Alabama, and honestly, it probably still is. I mean, it's the South. Slavery didn't end in Mississippi until 2013, so that doesn't really feel that far-fetched. From 2008 to 2016, we probably had the greatest run for Hollywood. The rise of the MCU, Star Wars came back, Toy Story 3, the Planet of the Apes reboot, Mission Impossible soft rebooted, Star Trek 2009, Avatar, actually like dope X-Men movies, the Harry Potter finale. We're in a renaissance of film. Franchises were the new craze. Death to trilogies and life to spin-offs and reboots, cinematic universes and sequels older than me. The Obama era was the greatest era for movies. The North American box office made around $64 billion, and it was fun. life-changing. Then the dark times came. Trump's presidency was like a bad joke with a shitty punchline. We are just at the start of his new one. It's already starting to look like the setting for Inglourious Bastards. So time will tell how bad this joke can get, but media took a sharp turn. While we still got the continuation of plenty of successful franchises and vibes, we also got this weird shift in ideologies. Comedy suddenly became about being allowed to say whatever you want with no repercussions. Being funny wasn't even the goal anymore. It's like controversy became the joke. Trump's era, it still gave us good movies though. We got Bombshell, Jojo Rabbit, Vice, Dune, Borat 2, Hamilton, The Last Jedi, Wonder Woman 1984. That's right, you can blame Trump for Wonder Woman 1984, a movie about a charismatic blonde guy who promises to grant you every wish as long as you believe in him and give him your mind. Gosh, I wonder where they got that idea from. We also got a weird shift in culture that suddenly gave new context to old ideas and characters that refocused how we saw the world. Like Joker became incel culture's Citizen Kane. Get Out's social horror highlighted an oddly dark reality of American progress being a facade. The Irishman's tale of an old America and how your friends could become your own demise and how you're always going to be working for somebody. It was dark and it was honest in the worst ways. And like I said, these movies were still good. We still got the continuation of the MCU. We got great television. The North American box office, though, it only made $48 billion. But Hollywood also almost died under Trump and his horrible response to the big cough. People were suddenly saying that art was never political and was never meant to be. Comedy and podcasts became a safe haven for a lot of these horrible ideas and terrible comedians. Trump was able to control a level of media like no one ever did before. And here's the thing, you don't need to change the media to affect a population. You just need to change its perception and how people talk about it. By preaching that obviously political stories were never political, you can convince people that their stories are subject to change and making things woke, even though that's what they always were. You know, I remember woke, to be more specific, staying woke, goes back, at least for me, goes back to Spike Lee and his warnings in his movies to be aware of how the world truly works. And that was at the benefit of everybody, not just minorities. Crazy, because if like a black person or a lady shows up in a fantasy or sci-fi setting, people scream woke now. And how it's, you know, shoving ideologies down people's throats. Even though the first movie with sound was about a white guy going through blackface. The first movie to premiere at the White House, Birth of a Nation, was so racist that Woodrow Wilson loved it. We saw from 2016 to today how culture wars can destroy art. Have your opinions about movies, but diversity is never the problem. It's easy to blame it because it's the easiest thing to see. After the big cough and the deaths that followed, we reached the 2020s. Hollywood was fighting for its life with Joe Biden in office. And we were in this weird phase of trying to forget the first Trump administration and its horrific ending. Hollywood was recovering and we got a good bit of movies out of it. Many were postponed due to the big cough. From 2020 to 2024, the North American box office grossed about $32 billion. Movies have always reflected the times that we live in, but now with politics and media more intertwined than ever before, can a film not be political anymore? I mean, it has to be in these politically turbulent times, but hateful politics thrives on people doing nothing and refusing to admit the truth that's right in front of their eyes, that their government is screwing them over. Art during politically tumultuous times is often a key into defeating the powers that corrupt. It's time to stop letting these anti-woke, overly sensitive babies trying to convince you that art isn't political. It always has been, and it always will be. And you can still enjoy movies if they're trying to teach you a lesson. It's time to relearn how to enjoy movies again, because the internet has skewed how I watch and enjoy things. If I'm judging based off of my Twitter timeline right now, it seems like it's more popular to hate something than to enjoy it. If a movie opens up to universal praise and box office records, that almost guarantees that within 3 months, there's going to be an army of people trying to convince you that it wasn't truly good. It becomes like a weird tradition for successful movies. And it's entirely possible that something, won't be as good as it was on the initial viewing. But it's getting to a point where people are kind of trying to be different and sound edgy. Also, the internet rewards hatred more than love now, which leads me to my personal rules for trying to enjoy movies nowadays. My first rule, the nitpicking era is over. It can be fun, yes, but in the long run, you don't need to be cinema sins, you guys. Acting like minor mistakes ruins a movie is a pretty stupid thing to do. Now, this next rule is gonna be controversial, but it's a conversation that needs to be had. It's time to stop caring about budgets and box office stats like it's our money that's being spent. I mean, yeah, to go see these movies. I'm talking about to make them. People love to bring it up now because we're a very analytical culture nowadays, from sports to politics and now movies. And this one sucks because box office can't make or break a movie. But far too often I see people worried about the box office gross like it's matters more than anything else. Plenty of great movies have bombed, while plenty of terrible movies have scraped in millions. It's not a true display of what makes something good. It's a factor, but it's not the end-all be-all. And with this fixation on budgets and box office, we get like ridiculous articles like Variety declaring that a movie with a $90 million budget making $60 million on opening weekend still isn't profitable. And mind you, that ended up being one of the most popular movies of the year. There are so many ways a movie will cost you money that's laughable that the average Joe Schmo can criticize studios and how it's spent. If Disney plopped $100 million on your lap right now and said, make something that's worth 5 times of this, you wouldn't know where to start. Studios will put their money into whatever they want at the end of the day. Remember, nobody was asking for an Iron Man movie prior to 2008. And look where we are now. Yes, revenue matters. A movie making money is out of an individual person's control, so why even bother to worry? Plenty of terrible movies get sequels because they made a few $1 million. Box office means a lot less than it meant 20 years ago. Of course, you want a movie that you love to make money so the creators and the studio can reap the benefits of your enjoyment. In this era of social media, we have far more than box office budget to express our admiration, especially considering that a lot of these studios take advantage of these streaming services anyways. They will take your money one way or another. So as I go down this new video essay journey, I just like to lay out my criteria that I'll be judging flicks by. It's simple, really. It's a system I call ETP FTBI, or if you want to make it easier, ETFITB. Yes, I made up a word because that's how words work. Well, actually, it's an acronym. From here on out, I'll be using this breakdown about how I enjoy movies and how I discuss them. And it's quite simple, really. Like I said, it's an acronym. So, E, entertainment. Did I enjoy it? Was it a good movie? That doesn't mean is it a good movie or a bad movie, it's did I enjoy the experience of watching it. Thought-provoking, did it make me think or feel deeply about anything that portrayed in its movie? Film techniques, what was the standout visuals, editing, performances, the actual technical aspect of making the movie? Behind the scenes, what was the story of how this was made? Did it overcome any issues? Was it an easy shoot? You know, that matters too. Impact, did it leave a mark on me and or the culture? So, ETFITB. All these questions will be taken into account whenever I give an overall breakdown of a movie or show. While the world changes and the movies reflect it, I aim to dissect it as it happens, while also finding joy and entertainment along the way and trying to block out all that other noise. Thank you for watching this video. Please like and subscribe and follow me on social media platforms so we can have these conversations together. And let me know what you want to see me discuss.